Let's go. There's a lot going on out of nowhere. Welcome in. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. Max Fuller here. How exciting is that? You couldn't talk for 6 months, and now we're here.
We're back, baby.
I had to fill in for you on Wolves After Dark one time. I had to hooty-hoo it. It didn't go as well.
It wasn't the same.
No.
It wasn't the same.
We did roll off like 45 minutes, Parker Fox and me in the cage. It was great, but I'm excited you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're actually working today, unlike 2 days ago when you came in, because nobody told you that our training camp shows had been canceled. You and I never got to talk about that. I was in the score, and I just saw you walk by, and I was talking with someone. I go, nobody told Max.
Nope.
Nobody told Max at training camp. Abbott was very good about telling us, Dan and me, that training camp was probably off.
Not your boy.
He got ahead of it. I know, weren't you filling in for Brett?
I was filling in for Brett, who also didn't let me know.
Yeah.
Who, when I stepped into the studio, went, oh, no.
Yeah.
Which is not, you don't ever want to hear that as soon as someone sees your face.
No.
And I didn't know what, I was just like, is my fro lopsided? I don't know what's going on right now, but I wasn't supposed to be here. Nope. So your boy just hopped right back on the bus.
Was the bus still there? Had it not yet
looked at me like, why did you even ride it over here?
Yeah, I watched you walk by, and I'm like, oh, nobody told him. And I know that for you, it's not as simple as just hopping in your car and heading back home.
Right.
And not anymore hopping on your bike. I hope not.
But it's, definitely not that. Not unless I have like a knight's armor. I'm not hopping back on the bike anytime soon. But it is a lot better because that did happen a couple times when I used to live back in Apple Valley.
Yes.
And let me tell you, that bus is a lot longer to take an hour and a half bus here. 3 buses here just to have Brett tell you, oh, actually, I'm in today.
That'd be tough. That'd be real tough.
But it's classic Abbott, so you just got to laugh.
It's classic KFAN.
It really is.
We kind of communicate. We do our best, but we're just not that good at it. So I was happy. Then today I was thinking it's like 2:40 and I hadn't really seen you yet. And I'm like, that's fine. Game time, on time. I'm like, wouldn't it be fitting if no one told him that he had to work today?
And then you're just by yourself.
Which we could figure it out. I could have figured it out. We've got a lot of great guests today. Johnny Athletic is going to join at 5:30 or thereabouts. Ben Gessling, the weekly Friday regular, is going to join at 4:30. And more football discussion about 10 minutes from now with my guy Daniel House. GophersGuru.com. He also does a lot of Vikings stuff. He was at Vikings, speaking of joint practices the last 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday. He was at Gopher night practice last night. So we're going to do a deep dive on both of the local football teams. Speaking of Parker Fox.
Yeah.
It's a big weekend for him. He and Taylor Heisey are getting married. The fan has learned. Are you invited to the wedding?
I was not.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, funny.
That hurts. Who was invited from here? Do we know?
I don't think anybody was at this point.
That's better. That's fine.
I'm going to hope that nobody else was invited. If me and you didn't get invited, we'd be the top candidates, right?
Well, you for sure, because you guys did all the shows together. You sat next to each other at all the Wolves playoff games.
There could have been a directive possibly from family members like, hey, this guy might go tarps off. He might enjoy the free bar a little too much.
That's true.
Maybe we should keep him away from the sanctity of this wedding.
So they're getting married, and it's apropos. I tweeted about this. I think they are in danger of losing their number one Minnesota power couple status this weekend. Well, you and I were talking before the show. These new Timberwolves owners, and that's the bit. That's where we're going to start the show today, and obviously that's why Johnny's going to join us. Sometimes these things kind of just fall in your lap. You've got 10 minutes. How are we going to open the show today? I had a couple of ideas, and then you see the John Krasinski tweet. And we once again learn, if we didn't already know this, why Glenn Taylor was fighting his ass off to keep control of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah. Why he had seller's remorse and why he was willing to drag himself through the mud with arbitration and mediation and everything to try to keep control of the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you missed it, what was your favorite Marc Lore as main owner moment? If you didn't have an opportunity a few years ago to take your shoes off with Marc Lore when they won, which became his bit early on in his tenure as the principal owner, it's over. Johnny tweet, Marc Lore selling controlling interest in the Timberwolves and Lynx to Marc Stad. I think that's how you say it, who has been a limited partner. He's already got skin in the game. Now he is the guy. Marc Lore will remain his limited partner. Stad and A-Rod are the new tandem leading the way. So who is this guy? He's 47 years old.
Apparently he's pretty mysterious. The internet, even internet sleuths who can find, a random woman in the background of a video in 3 seconds. They haven't been able to find a lot about this guy.
You can actually see a lot about his wife because she is an author of some kids' books.
Sweet.
I found no fewer than like 6 podcasts that she's been on. And I watched some of them like, is there anything instructive? Because she's technically the boss. Elisa Stad, she's the boss. He's the owner. She's the governor. She will represent. These are all fancy things that I have no idea about. She will represent the Wolves in league meetings and things that need to be voted upon. She is in charge. A-Rod is still in charge of the Lynx. But she's the one, if you want to really learn about the family and about what she's about, and she's got a heck of a backstory, she's the one you want to pay attention to. But I've got to be honest, it's hard to feel bad for Glenn Taylor, but you feel bad, maybe not for Glenn Taylor, but for his minority investors.
Yeah. Because
the stake that Marc Lore sold today, or is selling today, that was announced today, have the Timberwolves valuation at $4.5 billion. If you remember the sale price to A-Rod and Lore, it was $1.5 billion. And almost immediately, I remember at the time going, that seems a little light.
Right?
I know they're not, the Lakers. I know they're not the Celtics,
not
but
the Dallas Cowboys or anything.
Not the Cowboys. Yeah, not Man City or Man United. Not one of these Premier League teams that go for billions and billions of dollars. But 1.5, man, it seems a little light, and it obviously was. And I had on the bottom of my notebook yesterday, I was thinking about this just in general because of the Lakers sale, where they've already gone in less than a year from $10 billion to $12 billion. And that's a whole nother ownership thing that we're actually going to talk to Johnny about a little bit as well. And you just think, what an absolute steal these guys got. It is good. If you have money,
yeah,
it's very easy to make more. And Marc Lore limped in for a $1.5 billion valuation, and I don't know what he's clearing out of this. I'm guessing he's getting a bill.
At least, yeah, at least.
I don't know what the percentages were that he owned, but he had controlling interest, so I'm guessing it had to be about 50. And A-Rod is part of this deal, is increasing his investment and also his percentage owned. So it's a good day to be A-Rod. And now we've got this 47-year-old investment guy that I'm going to sprinkle in things about as we go, because he is mysterious. But he's a Harvard grad. He's from Southern California. He was the first person in his family to graduate high school.
Wow.
And go to college. When he got to Harvard...
So this isn't like a guy that got, handed $10 million from his dad, and then he's on a podcast years later talking about how he got it from the mud.
Exactly right. That's why I like this guy.
Yeah.
And I was telling you before the show, I like both. I like this couple. This couple is badass. What they came from and what they've done and what they do in the community, who they give the money to. But one quick nugget about him is he gets to Harvard. He's from L.A. He doesn't have a jacket. He wants to go to the football game, and it's cold. Apparently, you're smart enough to get into Harvard, but not smart enough to realize you need a jacket once you get to Cambridge.
Check the weather app once in a while.
I guess so. They didn't have it back in 1997 when he went there. So what does he do? He asked somebody, he goes, what do you do? He didn't have any money. He got a big financial aid package to go to Harvard. He's there. He wants to go to the Harvard-Yale football game. It's cold. What do I do? Well, they have a fund in Harvard for the poor kids that got in that need a jacket. Care to guess what kind of jacket he was able to get with the check from that endowment fund?
I'm guessing a pretty decent one, yeah.
His quote was, that was my first experience with North Face. So that must have been a pretty good endowment fund. But that's who we're dealing with here. And to show you just how far he's come, he and his wife, Elisa, bought not one, but 2 mansions in Montecito, California, which I think is kind of by San Francisco, for the total price of $41 million. So any concern about liquidity, any concern about second apron and luxury tax that I think rightfully so, people were kind of wondering about with A-Rod and Lore, that was part of the big sale, is do they have the money to actually complete it? That's why they bought it on layaway.
Right.
The Sezzle app for owners.
Right. Afterpay, paying for like your boy does.
Me too.
On anything.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I got a lot of payment plans. I would do it on an 89-cent burrito if I could. I got a lot of payment plans, but this dude has come a long way. This family has come a long way, and he definitely works in the shadows, which some people think is a red flag. I think is great. I think he's just a quiet killer.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a cool day, and now A-Rod gets to be the face of the franchise, which obviously A-Rod wants to be. So we'll mix in more on the new Timberwolves ownership and what it may or may not mean. We'll give you more details on the owners, the family, what they're about, who they've donated to, what they've donated to, what they believe their mission is. It's a pretty interesting group. We've got all of that before we are done at 6:30. Johnny Krasinski will join to talk about this, how it all came about, what it means for the franchise, if anything. That's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Ben Gessling at 4:30. But when we come back, I mentioned my guy Daniel House. We will catch up on Vikings camp observations and Gopher camp observations as well. Gaardsy in for Barrero. Max Fuller here as well.
Justin Guard in for Barrero on the Fan.
From the 1-800 app.
On what's happening with your favorite KFAN program, make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Wins. Welcome back. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. Max here as well, here until 6:30. Ben Gessling at 4:30. Johnny Athletic in the 5 o'clock hour to talk about the Wolves sale. But I'm excited that this guy was in town because he's not always in town unless he can go to multiple football practices, and he did this week. His name is Daniel House. You can follow him at Daniel House MN on Twitter. I do it. I recommend it. He's the founder of Gophers Guru. We'll talk about that. Vikings Corner as well. He founded, but he's a football fanatic, and I love talking draft with him. We've had him on to talk draft over the years. I have him on my Gopher podcast all the time, and he is nice enough to join me in studio. House, what do we know, brother?
It's football season, baby. It's time to go. I'm ready to have something else to talk about, some actual game reps.
You don't want to talk about the new Gophers kicker that may or may not be the kicker on opening night if he gets his lawsuit figured out, and he was in Ravens mini camp like 6 months ago, and now he's apparently in the running for Eastern Illinois. You don't want to talk about courthouse stuff?
He's in the running. The kicker battle just took an interesting twist.
It's crazy. Let's start with Vikings, because I know you were there for a couple of days. We can start real basic, and if you have questions for House, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, 64686. You can also tweet me at Gaardsy. Give me your headline from Vikings joint practices with the Baltimore Ravens, or headlines, the interesting things that you think are worth discussing.
Well, I'm going to take a total different approach because everybody's talking about the quarterbacks, but I actually left there thinking about the running game and what they've done schematically, some of the things that maybe they're introducing that are little hints and previews into what could possibly happen. Frank Smith hired this offseason to come in and kind of overhaul the run game approach. He was with Mike McDaniel in Miami. So if you've watched Miami play, you know they got a great perimeter run game, lots of motion usage, creative formations, the use of the fullback. Alec Ingold last year, big part of their offense. So drafting Max Bredesen, a lot of people were going, man, they picked Bredesen pretty high. But when you go back and you study Miami, you see how important the fullback is, and Bredesen checks that box. So I think the evolution of the run game with KOC, I've been saying it for a few years. I thought that was the next step for the Vikings. Like, passing game has always been great from a design standpoint, but marrying up the run and the pass is key, especially when you got a quarterback like Kyler Murray who has great athleticism. Now there's some new wrinkles that you can put into the offense.
All right. I don't know you well, but I know you, because the second bullet point I had was, what are they trying to do with the running game? Because I knew you would be interested in it. You're a film junkie. I know you know coaches and trees, and you study this stuff more than anybody that I know. So explain to the football idiots over here, as a football savant, what are they trying to do with the running game? What are these big dramatic changes that we keep hearing about?
So it's called a wide zone scheme. So essentially what you're trying to do is displace the defense horizontally, try to get your running back out on the edge, one cut, run downhill. So the running back has like three specific reads. It's like a bang, bend, and a bounce. So he's kind of reading the defense to determine which type of cut he's going to make. He's going to put his foot in the ground and get downhill. And so that's kind of the whole philosophy behind it. And then you do a lot of motioning with players moving them around, you get the defense displaced, their eyes in the wrong spot, you open up potential opportunity for a big play. So when you see the type of backs that the Vikings have, Aaron Jones has thrived in that type of perimeter run game scheme. Jordan Mason, to me, I left there and I went, man.
He's looked good.
He physically looks very impressive. Like, he has cut some weight. He looks more explosive to accommodate this new scheme. And then Damon Claiborne, like Ferrari on the edge, baby. Like, he's just got to figure out the pass pro, consistently catching the ball, not fumbling the football, like just the fundamentals. But like from a raw trait standpoint, there's a lot to be excited about. And then you think about it, Gaardsy, like the mobility in Murray. That's a component they can unlock with just zone read keeps. And I'm not saying you got to run him a ton because people are like, oh, he's going to get hurt. I think about Kyle Whittingham. I was just listening to an interview with him talking about Bryce Underwood. And he said, even if you can keep in the quarterback run game 5-6 times a game, the defense has to prepare for it that week. And we saw what Kyler Murray can do with that. I think KOC can add some like RPO run pass option stuff where, you know, he's got the ability to pull it, throw it, run it, lots of different options. And he's just kind of reading a defender, a conflict defender, and, you know, throwing it and getting it out to the playmaker over the middle to make a play. And then you got a guy like Juwan Jennings who can create after the catch, which I think was a big add as well.
So do they have the offensive line to successfully do this?
I do. I think their personnel matches up with it well. I also don't think people talk enough about the Ryan Vandemark move.
Okay.
Bringing him in as a swing tackle from Buffalo. That was a great move by Brzezinski there with the restricted free agent tender, applying that and going to get a piece that, you know, that has been a problem for the Vikings for the last few years, is like when one of the tackles goes down, you get that regression in terms of play. You just need somebody to be serviceable. So I liked that acquisition. And now you look at Christian Darrisaw should be healthy this year. Even Donovan Jackson, you know, I was really high on Donovan Jackson when they picked him. And last year he's playing with that wrist problem for a large chunk of the season. So they definitely have the mobility to run that perimeter type of zone, outside zone scheme that they want to run.
Tell us about Blake Brandel. Is he good enough? Everybody got excited and intoxicated a year ago that, hey, he's never really done this before, but he's doing pretty well for a guy that's never done it before. Is he good enough? I know they had some snap issues in one of the games, and KOC talked about it, but that I think worries me a little bit. What say you? That's
the one position I'd say is still semi-question mark. You know, I want to see how he does this season. You know, you said it, kind of getting thrown into that center role where it's like, okay, this is a new position. There's a lot of things and responsibilities pre-snap that a center has to do, you know, with protections, getting into the right look, communicating with the quarterback. So I look at it like Blake Brandel. We got to see how he performs this season. I do believe center's an area that can continue to look to upgrade moving forward, but I know they're focused on those, having the premier tackles, and they've addressed the guard spots the last couple of years. So I think that should help.
Well, let's go back in time. We've already talked a little bit about Kyler Murray and his fit and how he can fit in with what they're trying to do here. What did you make of the move at the time of bringing him in?
I was saying, well, what's the alternative? You know, you got to get a guy in here that is going to be able to be serviceable. And when you look at Kyler Murray, if you can adapt to his strengths, then there's a lot of potential there. You know, I think that they have to be able to run the football effectively to truly unlock him. I think that's the season-defining characteristic for the Vikings this year. Can they run the football with efficiency? Because then you can roll the pocket off play action, get him booting out, run sprint outs, and just change the launch point for Kyler Murray. Because I like to see him out in space more, where he's got space to operate because he's a smaller guy. His throwing motion's a little longer, so he's able to get better vision, too, because he's a shorter guy. And then you got the scrambling opportunities, too. When you're rolling the pocket, he can make some off-schedule plays that maybe other Viking quarterbacks haven't been able to do in the past. And then when you're bracketing Jefferson and the coverage gets locked up downfield, there's scramble opportunities, too. But you got to be smart about that. You got to get down. You got to get out of bounds. Like, don't get yourself in a spot where you're injured. So that's something that I'm watching, is just the second play opportunity for Kyler Murray, too.
Why do you think Arizona was so willing to just let him go? Or where did he struggle in Arizona? What didn't go right there?
I just think that early on in the career, I thought the scheme was a little bit better of a fit for him. I'd like to see KOC just get some run-pass option stuff in the offense. Some of the things he did in college with Lincoln Riley, maximizing and harnessing his athletic ability, moving the pocket like we mentioned. I felt like with the direction Arizona was going offensively with a new coach in LaFleur, they just felt a reset was good for both parties and a change of scenery for Kyler Murray just to get in a spot where he's got good support in terms of playmakers around him. I thought that Jauan Jennings signing was maybe one of the best moves of the offseason, finally getting that bigger skill set. You think about it, the Vikings have been smaller at that receiver room for a while, but they finally get that big power skill set that can not only win over the middle, create yards after the catch, but also be impactful in the run game, blocking. That's the thing that doesn't show up in the box score that makes a huge difference. And I always thought Adam Thielen was one of the best at it. He never got the love for it, but he was incredible at run blocking. So Jauan Jennings brings that, especially with the things they're doing in the run game now. Having a guy like Jauan Jennings that you can put in more as like a power slot and let him run block, that's huge.
J.J. McCarthy will get the start tomorrow. It was only a year ago where he probably didn't play much in preseason game number 2, right? Nobody was really worried about him getting looks in the second meaningless preseason game for a starting quarterback. Where do you think things went wrong with this as you diagnose all of it? Because you go back 2 years ago about this time, everyone was fired up about how he played against the Raiders, and it sounded like he was pushing Sam Darnold to be the starting quarterback sooner rather than later. Where did we miss on this? What's gone amiss?
Well, I mean, when you watch the tape back in Michigan, there are things that showed up, like, getting to the top of the drop and being open, leading to some accuracy issues, like learning to develop some touch in the passing side of it, like a lot of throws that were very flat and a lot of velocity on them, being able to vary the throw tempos. I thought those were a couple things that like needed to be unlocked, some of the mechanic stuff, and then getting thrown into the game. And then, maybe not being quite ready to do it yet. I also wonder sometimes, Gaardsy, honestly, with Michigan and all the things that went on with the signs and all that, like, how much did, I
think about it constantly. I think about it constantly. Know? Yes, I think about it constantly. It's probably unfair to him.
Yeah, I know.
But I think about it. I thought about it then. We joked about it at the time, but I think about it constantly.
The thing that bugs me, too, is if I could make one rule change, I would change the hash marks and make them uniform between college and the NFL.
Okay.
Because I think that makes it super challenging sometimes to evaluate quarterbacks, because when the ball's on one side of the hash, you got all this space in college football. Like, you watch the games, you could be so late on throws that, like, when the hashes are different in the NFL and the windows are more compressed, like, it changes the whole ball game in terms of evaluating quarterbacks at times. So I wish they get uniform with the hash marks.
Do you think JJ is redeemable? Maybe not here, but somewhere.
I don't know. I'm serious. I just think the confidence is so low right now.
For sure.
There almost has to be a change of scenery to potentially unlock some. I thought he had promise in certain areas. Like, I thought early on in his career, there were some flashes, like you said, like working within the rhythm of the offense. Like, you saw him showing it. And then all of a sudden, like, once he got into games, he got a little dinged up. Everybody started to get a little riled up publicly. Mentally, it just seemed to turn a corner, and now I don't know. I mean, he might need a change of scenery and go somewhere else.
All right, let's pause here. We're going to talk Vikings defense when we get back with Daniel House, as well as some Gopher stuff, because he was at practice last night as well, the final open practice for the Gophers before they take the field September 3rd. It's a Thursday night, as is customary, against Eastern Illinois. The founder of Gophers Guru, Daniel House, joins me in studio. If you have questions for him on literally anything football related, whether it's something about the draft, something about another team, something about a tight ends coach that you've never heard of, I promise you House has heard of him and has probably watched the All-22. So you can ask anything, and he's going to have an answer for it. We'll try to get to as many of those when we come back.
In for Barrero, this is Justin Guard on the Fan.
All right. Want to be at the next big game or concert? We're giving away tickets to Jack White, Journey, and plenty more. Enter today at KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
Founder of Gophers Guru Daniel House is in studio with me. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. Max Fuller here as well. Ben Gessling about an hour from now. Johnny Athletic in a couple of hours. At Daniel House MN on Twitter. If you'd like to follow him, I suggest that you do. He was at Vikings camp on Wednesday and Thursday. Was also at Gopher practice. We're going to talk about the Gophers momentarily. But let's flip to the defensive side of the ball for the Vikings. I've been mentioning that I don't want to hear about Harrison Smith anymore because I feel like that's a crutch we all go to. But I'm going to go to the crutch right away. Do you expect him to come back? And if he doesn't, what will they be missing?
Well, I'd say he's going to look at it, in my opinion, and just see how they do the first few weeks. And maybe if they're looking like they're in contention, maybe he comes back. I could see that possibly happening. I could also see a world where he's just like, I'm coming, I don't want to deal with training camp, and here we go.
Yeah.
That could be some of it. But, it's probably going to be a mix of Josh Metellus and Theo Jackson back there, and Jay Ward had a good practice.
I saw you said that, yeah.
Jacoby Thomas hasn't done a lot, though. He's been doing little portions of practice, it looked like. So curious to see him because he came from that Heatherman defense down in Miami. Mm-hmm. Great ball skills, can make a lot of plays. And the systems are kind of similar in what they do stylistically. So I guess I'm excited to see what Jacoby Thomas can do. Jacob Thomas is another guy. He had an interception in the preseason game. James Madison product, kind of playing nickel and safety. So they want to get versatile at the safety spot. I did think they needed to get a little faster there. And with Jacoby being one of the additions, I guess I'm kind of excited to see him in game action because I think he fits the defense well.
Can you explain, we read a lot about what makes the Flores defense unique. And even the preseason game, Pete Bursich was talking about it on the Vikings Entertainment Network, that they're blitzing a lot, which you don't typically do in the preseason. We have jokes and conversations about that. But Pete was basically saying, well, that's kind of just our base defense, is just blitz a lot and do a lot of random stuff. So it's hard to ask everybody to just play super vanilla if we haven't been doing it all camp. What is unique about the Flores scheme that makes it, pretty proven, pretty successful?
I think it's just the ability to change the picture all the time because you never know what you're going to get. You got linebackers mugged up. You've got defensive linemen and tweaked alignments. Sometimes it looks like it's going to be a blitz, but instead you got an edge rusher dropping into coverage and you're replacing with a linebacker and it really is like rushing 4. There's just all these little intricacies both in the front and the back end. Sometimes you got corners drop into the deep half, playing almost like a safety, and then guys underneath replacing in the flats, constantly rolling zone coverages and changing where guys are going to end up dropping into coverage. And that alters the processing of the quarterback because they're sitting back there going, okay, where am I going with the football? You got a guy jump into his zone and bang, you got a takeaway or you get your hand on the ball, you get a deflection, and that's a big play. So I just think it's constant picture changing that makes his defense incredibly difficult. I thought they did a good job this offseason of just adding unique skill sets to the defense, getting a little younger inside at the defensive tackle position, because I think that's where the drink is stirred these days, is being able to win inside, especially stopping the run. And then also when you get into passing downs, having those guys that are kind of unicorns that can line up all over the place.
Well, let's go there next. I was going to ask you about Dallas Turner, and I will in a second, but let's talk about Caleb Banks, the oft-discussed controversial first-round pick where people think if he's healthy, he's top 10, no problem. Did you share that theory? And what do you think about just him in general?
My theory is I think he was too big at Florida. He got too big.
Heavy.
Yeah, and too heavy because it's a lot of times when you see that where guys have the foot problem, his frame is so unique. It's just monstrous. If you're out there, you're going, Caleb Banks, this guy jumps out whoa.
It's kind of like you. You're way taller than I think you should be.
Really?
Yeah, when I see you, how tall are you?
I don't know, probably shade over 6 foot.
Yeah, you're I think I don't know why. Maybe because you've always been young house. I met you at training camp when you were 7. Now when you were hanging with Charch, now that you're an adult, you always feel taller to me. So is that the same phenomenon as Caleb Banks?
It is.
Yeah.
And you go back, you watch his high school tape. I went back and looked at it. He's more of a defensive end. You watch this guy and you're going, yeah, he's got just this big, tall build, but he's just physically unique. One of the more physically unique players I've seen along the defensive line, especially getting there in person and looking at it. I'm going, this guy can play from wider shades, where you got him more toward like 4-eye, which is over the inside shoulder of the tackle,
okay,
and turning pockets, being able to push it, create, basically impeded vision lanes for the quarterback. That's where quarterbacks struggle, is when they're getting collapsed in the pocket and you're able to kind of hold the edge, and then the edge rushers, they just retrace the quarterback and get a sack opportunity. So I think him being in there to be that chaos creator from multiple alignments, that was kind of the vision that Brian Flores had, knowing that interior pass rush, both at the college and NFL level, is so important right now. And
do you buy it? I mean, do you think if he's healthy, can he be as productive as they thought he could be?
I believe that looking at him, he needs technical refinement still, just pad level, learning how to play the position, developing into the body that they want him to play from. But once that happens, like there were couple of flashes in practice where it's like, okay, like this guy's a ball player. So you see it. Now it's about the consistency, unlocking it play to play, and that's going to come with time. And I think Flores sees the clay. He wants to mold it. Speaking
of molded clay, let's go to Dallas Turner, because I think that was the idea with him as well, right? He was a very young player. He's playing behind some good dudes, if memory serves.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like this is a big year for him.
Yes.
What do you think of the whole Dallas Turner experiment and what's reasonable to expect from him?
I actually left there saying I think he's improved a ton. Just like recognition-wise, I thought like against the run, maybe he was a step slow to process and react, like just being in the right spot to get off a block or set the edge. Like he just seems more confident, decisive in that. And then you go back to like watching him in Alabama. I never thought he had a lot of pitches in the bag. Like, he had the bull rush ability to win with that physicality and like speed to power a little bit. But like now there seems to be maybe a little bit more like pitch variation in terms of his pass rush arsenal, and I think that's going to help him a lot. Just comfort level in the scheme, just figuring out what it's like to play in Flores' defense. The traits have always been there. It's like now let's see it unlocked. It looked to me like there was more confidence there, just in general. He never felt like he was fully reaching that confidence level.
Any other headlines defensively that maybe I haven't touched on, or that you left thinking, okay, this. I wasn't thinking this, now I am, or I wanted to see this, now I saw it.
I would like to see them get another cornerback in here. I think that's the position where, are you going to start James Pierre? Is Chuck Demings ready? I think Chuck Demings has got a lot of potential. The corner from Stephen F. Austin. I mean, you go back and look at him at Stephen F. Austin, like he was a perfect fit for the defense, and already seeing the flashes here in training camp. But are you really ready to have those two guys in that type of role? Do you want James Pierre more in a rotational type of role and maybe get a premier corner? Maybe they look to the trade market. I think that could be maybe a possibility. And I saw like Joey Porter Jr. being floated around as a trade option. Maybe that's a guy they look at. Gerald Alexander was with the Steelers, and obviously Flores has a tie to the Steelers as well when he was there with Tomlin. So maybe they look for something like that.
Okay, lastly on the Vikings, what have you learned? I know you're high on what Brzezinski did.
Yes.
Kind of in the interim.
Yes.
As the interim general manager. He's obviously still part of it.
Yep.
How much did you know? I imagine you had like a full dossier file on Nolan Teasley. Like he was probably on your short list. And I'd never heard of him until they signed him. What have we learned about him, his approach, what he took from the Seahawks? He's got a cool story of basically quitting a job and going to be an intern and working all the way up. I love guys like that. What have you learned or gleaned about him as kind of a soft-spoken dude?
First off, I love his journey, like you said. Hustler, trying to get a shot, finally gets a shot, takes advantage of it, works his way up, now a GM. But I think the one thing that stands out about how Seattle's built their team is production matters. They want to see multiple years of production in the metrics that matter. And teams that do that build their team with that in mind, and they invest their resources properly into the right things that win football games, those are the teams that have success, and they're able to really jumpstart the roster quickly. I've even looked at some of these bottom roster signs. Day to day you get an email and I'm like, oh, Jahvaree Ritzie, I love that guy. Like Joshua Gray, oh my gosh, Oregon State. Like I think he could be a center. Like there's like a vision and a clear plan in terms of like what they're looking for from a player. They want that productivity. They want snap share. I see that that's going to become a huge component of what Teasley does. Production over potential. Look at what Cignetti's doing with Indiana, man. Like
right.
Those guys that have done it, even if it's at a lower level, like if they hit certain benchmarks, and then the tape matches up, the people that can blend the right data with the film, they're going to put themselves in a good spot. I think Nolan Teasley could do that.
Daniel House from GophersGuru.com in studio. Gaardsy in for Barrero today. Here's a quick text as we transition to college football talk, because House was at Gopher practice last night as well. Danny in Atlanta to the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. Can you ask Daniel if he thinks there will ever be a salary cap for NIL?
Yeah, I think once it all becomes internal, maybe the Protect College Sports Act, when that eventually passes, or they get some sort of reform that takes place, then that stuff becomes internal and maybe there'll be a little bit more control over it. But right now it's a unique landscape. Like we said, a kicker being able to join, 13 days before the season starts. it's a unique landscape, and I do think that like there's going to be some guardrails coming soon.
I mean, there has to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in this more, and I know I'm sure you try to figure out how much guys are getting paid, and you probably have a ballpark of what guys are getting paid, but it just seems like, I mean, nobody knows anything. Numbers are crazy. I know Chip just wrote the big story about analytics and how that works with the finances for things. Like, how much have you tried to educate yourself on some of that, or are you just sticking to tape and scheme and all of that?
I have educated myself on that a lot in terms of like, where do you put your financial resources? Which positions matter the most to winning? Which production metrics matter? There's certain things that stand out in college football that matter, at each position.
Yep.
So I've been spending a lot of time thinking about that, about how it could be applied and, potentially give teams an edge, which teams are doing it a little bit of a different way. Right now, you might not have the resource level, some schools. I think a school like Virginia, how they build their roster, very unique, sort of different approach.
What's unique about it?
Just the type of production that they take with players, kind of like that Teasley model I was just talking about, where, you're able to kind of know which players are going to translate the best based on some things that matter and contribute to success. And I spent a lot of time studying film and the numbers and kind of looking at how those things could potentially bear out.
How did the Gophers spend their portal money this year, in your opinion?
Well, you look at it, defensive tackle was obviously a huge priority because it had to be. I mean, you lost 90+% of your snaps at defensive tackle, so you got to go and get those guys, and they're very expensive in the transfer portal because people know defensive tackle is really important. You got to stop the run to be able to win games, and you got to be disruptive inside. So, they went and spent a lot of money there. And then T.J. Bush was obviously a bigger acquisition off the edge, a unique player. I mean,
from Cal.
He's kind of a sawed-off body type. He's not a big, long guy, but just he plays so compact and underneath guys. Like, his technique is really good, and he pops. He's really disruptive during sessions of practice. So I think him and Smith are going to be a good combo together, but I think it's going to come down to stopping the run guards. You got to be able to do that in the Big Ten because you're going to have teams that are going to want to pound that rock, and it's one up front, O-line and D-line in the Big Ten. That's where the bread's buttered.
I want to talk about Anthony Smith in a minute. What's been your reaction to the Drake Lindsey draft steam? Seems like every other mock draft has him higher than the last one. And I still think he's probably under the radar a little bit, but it seems like in terms of guys that follow the draft, he's not under the radar at all.
Well, I think you see the flashes and the traits and the potential. Like, I remember just early on, like when they were starting to look at him, I'm like, you can see the appeal. Like, he can make all the throws, stretch it, down the field and be able to throw with good anticipation over the middle. I think anticipation is like the best trait within Drake's game. But now it's like the next step. It's pocket presence. It's being able to really listen to your feet and kind of, be able to understand like, hey, the pressure's coming here. I got to step away, buy a little time and, throw that guy open. Like, the flashes are there. I think it's going to come down to like taking that next step. Even at the line of scrimmage, they talked a lot about that, getting into the right run play, getting in the right package. Like, there's a lot of demands put on the quarterback in Greg Harbaugh's offense when they get to line of scrimmage. Like, Max Brosner is elite at that.
Yeah.
Like, that was the special trait in his game. So Drake was learning a lot last year, just trying to figure out what look is best versus this type of front that we see.
How rare is that in the college game to have an offense like the one you're just discussing?
Gophers have a very NFL-style offense.
And they didn't always, right? I mean, in the Shiraka era, it wasn't, right?
Yeah, Shiraka was more of that run-pass option.
Yeah.
Glance RPOs, just, getting the ball out quick and ripping it, And it worked. I mean, you got that downhill inside zone, duo run schemes, like, they're able to complement the run and pass really well. I think that's what made Kirk a great OC, was like keeping it simplistic, but making it complex from the defense. And I think that's where Greg said this offseason, they spent a ton of time working on the run game, like studying teams, trying to figure out, I mean, the fastball has always been that outside zone run scheme. So I want to see what's the changeup. Like, what are you going to do differently that puts your guys in the best position for success? I mean, they have more of a lean, athletic offensive line than maybe they traditionally had in the past. They've kind of developed into that. So now I want to see, okay, what does the scheme look like? Greg spent a lot of time on the passing game the last few years.
Yep.
Now you say you spent more time on the run game and then the pass game when they got back in the summer. So let's see what the scheme looks like. I think that's going to be a really underrated storyline entering the season here.
I thought it was interesting when talking about Greg Harbaugh, the Gopher offensive coordinator, when he joined our mutual friend Burnsy's podcast the other day. And he talked about in the offseason historically I get back after the bowl game, after recruiting, whatever it is, and I go and I vet out like 3 or 4 different offenses, and I always do pass game. So this year I didn't do pass game at all. I did run game. And you look at it logically, their run game stunk last year. The games that Darius Taylor wasn't in, they couldn't run the ball. And even then, I'm sure you know the numbers. That dude had to break so many tackles just to get the 5 yards of carry that he got. So where did they struggle? PJ said it in Chicago too, with Grimmer and me. He said, I did not like our run game at all last year, and we have to figure it out. Where did they struggle a year ago, and how do they fix it? Very similar, I think, to the Vikings conversation.
I just think physicality, being able to move guys and dent dudes at the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's the thing, being able to generate movement into the second level. Look at the thing fans should look for is how often do the offensive line able to get up to the linebackers, be able to create cutback lanes for the running back, like be cleaner, open up some cleaner creases for the running backs to make plays. Because, I mean, that one cut, being able to make that one cut downhill and have just a little bit of space, that's all you need. And then you break a tackle and you're off to the races. So I think some of it is just offensive line play. Other things is like we've heard a lot about just getting to the line of scrimmage, getting into the right play, making sure that specific design is best versus the type of defense you're seeing. And I think now with the amount of multiplicity in college football when it comes to like moving the defensive line, slanting the defensive line, and stemming the D-line, so like they'll set up in a certain front and then shift late, or they'll like totally change the picture at the beginning of the play. That creates a lot of different challenges that Drake just had to learn. Like every defense last year, I'm like, he's going to the ice cream shop. Like 1 week it's Rocky Road, 1 week it's banana twist, like, yeah. I don't know, pina colada. Like every week was a little different. I asked Drake about that. I said, like, do you feel like you learned a lot last year just by seeing different defenses? And he said, yeah. And then I learned a lot that I can like do this next time. So that's the key now, because the Big Ten, Gaardsy, it has never been better from a coaching standpoint.
Right.
Like that's the underrated aspect. People talk about the personnel, but like the coaching, the scheming, the coordinators, elite in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, all the money's here with the players, but all the money's here with the coaches too, right? I mean, those things go hand in hand. There's a reason guys are trying to get into the Big Ten. Who's Drake throwing the ball to? We know it's, Javon Tracy. We know it's Jalen Smith. Who's after that?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Noah Jennings from Cincinnati. He was at Charleston Southern to begin his career. Then he went to Cincinnati. I think he gives them a little bit more of a vertical stretch component, being able to kind of like take the top off the defense. You can get him moving, kind of climbing off intermediate and deep crossing routes. A lot of posts in practice where, Drake's throwing it up to him and he's going to make a play. So I think that's kind of a skill set that stands out within his game. Hayden Moore's been a guy that's flashed a lot.
I hear his name a lot. Yeah.
True freshman from Florida. I just think for a young player, he moves really well in and out of break points, like running pretty solid routes. I mean, it is different when you get into games and it's like, when you see this changes your route. Like there's going to be some stuff that he's going to be learning as he gets out there. But there's been some positive flashes there. Jalen Smith's been impressive in practice, though. Like, he continues to get better. And, like, the route running, the consistency. Like, last year you saw the flashes as the season went on.
Yep.
But I think Jalen's made even more strides.
Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line 64686, text from a 612 number. Have we talked Roman Voss yet? We have not.
Ha-ha.
Do you have a spot? So I'm thinking, like, of the beat writers the last couple of weeks, Randy Johnson, I think, was driving the Roman Voss hype train.
Yeah.
Andy Greeter was barely on the caboose. He tried to hop off and basically be like, he's a freshman. Everybody calm down. He did one wildcat snap and got crunched. Burnsy, I think, is kind of in the middle. Where is Daniel House on the Roman Voss, Jackson County big-time recruit hype train?
Tight ends take time to develop. That's what you have to remember. Like, it takes time. Like, the physicality of the position, being able to do a lot of things in Minnesota scheme that they require him to do. Especially, he wasn't a guy that came, early. He came later. So it's like now we got to get him up to speed on the offense, figure out, what happens when this occurs, like all these different intricacies of the position. So maybe there's package play opportunities, like you said, using him like a Taysom Hill, putting him in there because he does have that experience. You think about it, he was like really playing a lot of that quarterback position in high school. So he's still just trying to figure out the tight end spot and learn all that. So, I think that you got to look into the future on a player like that and project out that, like, here's what he's going to be once he develops.
Do you feel like there will be an increased role's not the right word because he's important, but productivity with Darius Taylor now that he has become a Pilates aficionado.
The flexibility of Pilates.
His pelvic floor apparently is, I don't know if it's set, if it's centered, if it's set, if it's stronger. I'm not sure, but I know we've heard about the pelvic floor of Darius Taylor a lot this offseason. Where do you stand on that?
Well, here's the deal, Gaardsy. It's like the best shape of my life lines, in the offseason.
Yes.
Now we're talking about Pilates.
Yeah.
But I do think there is value in terms of being refined with the things that you're doing, understanding there's a lot of tools out there that can help you be a better athlete and hold up, be more durable. So Darius, it's been that durability piece. Can you maybe take some carries off of him and spell him here and there, especially early in the season if you're getting big leads, get him out of the game.
For sure.
And run some other guys.
Here's another text from Andy. The Gophers clearly have, hang on, I got to scroll up, elite talent at spots on both sides of the ball. Do they have the depth to change their best against any of the top-tier Big Ten opponents they'll face and steal a win somewhere? I
do think that's a really important thing, is the depth piece. You think about on the offensive line, especially in the interior, and that's a spot where, they're going to have to figure out the center position, behind Ashton Beers, if something were to happen to him, who's going to play that spot. You think about the cornerback room. I'm kind of curious to see how cornerback 2 shakes out opposite of John Nestor. Kind of got Aiden West, Naeem Parrish, Mike Gerald competing out there. Who separates themselves? I think there's going to be a lot of rotation, Gaardsy, early in the year at some of these spots, like defensive tackle, cornerback, trying to figure out which combinations give them the best shot at success. And then we didn't even talk about the 5-for-5 change.
Yeah, right.
Freshmen now, you don't have to sit there and worry about that 4-game redshirt rule.
Yep.
Get them out there. I think that's what Pete fans should watch for early on in college football this year. Some teams are we got our 105 roster wide open. We're going to put guys in. We're way ahead. We're going to see what they can do. Maybe some guy plays better in a game in a specific package against a different team, and you go, wow, we found something here. Or maybe it's special teams. Can you enhance your special teams, get faster? I always say special teams can tell you how deep your roster is, how you perform on special teams.
Do you have time for one more quick segment?
Heck yeah.
Okay, I love it, because I want to talk a little bit more Gopher defense. I want to talk about their schedule, and I want to get into some Big Ten stuff in general, some other teams. Daniel House from GophersGuru.com. Keep the text coming to the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. You can also tweet me at Gaardsy. Anything I'll call him the football guru, not just the Gophers guru, but that's the site that he owns, so we'll go with that.
Justin Guard in for Barrero on the Fan.
From the 1-800